Okay. So, you're allowed to make Havdalah from Shabbos until through Tuesday. So we're still in last week Shabbos. So there's a parsha. I've spoken about this a lot. It happens to be very close to my heart. I think I spoke about this on a personal level, but I'm not sure if I have time tonight. But the discussion, there's been a dialogue and a conversation in the community at large, the Jewish community. I mean, in light of current events, not that we need current events to remind us, unfortunately, but because of the current events and the turn of the political attitude among many who would kowtow to extremists who, although has nothing to do with wanting police force to act with respect and dignity and not brutally, but unfortunately the way events are turning and the violence and the riots, and that has stirred a lot of sentiment. And I should tell you, in our little Kehillah, how many people have approached me seriously. In fact, one, I don't think he's moving because of this, but Noki Gans and his family are making Aliyah in Mitzvah Hashem in August. And there are others who are considering. And this has been a catalyst for a lot of thought. And I want to talk about it a little bit, because there's something that I think often about, and I'm not sure I have it resolved. And the more I think about it, the more questions arise. I just want to come back to a little portion in Chumash that we read last week that I believe is relevant, because we have to ask ourselves, why aren't we running? I mean, do we belong here? Or we don't belong here? We certainly belong somewhere else. And why are we staying here? Everyone, of course, starts conjuring up the imagery of pre-Nazi war, Nazi Germany, or early Nazi Germany when people fled smartly, and others who didn't. It didn't turn out so favorable for the vast majority of those that stayed. And it's one can argue that there's no comparison, but in the same vein, even though there's no comparison, but the level of it's nothing, and gamze yavar, that attitude we are feeling, whether it's as extreme or not. But certainly it has that same equation in that time that people downplayed it, and it might be more serious than it is. It could be. But the question is, when people talk about the subject, why isn't it a no-brainer? Is it a no-brainer, or is it not a no-brainer? Why are we here? I mean, why don't we move? What's our excuse for being here? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a religious Zionist or even a Zionist. I mean, it's a pasuk in Chumash. It's the dream. We're just going to wait till God pick us up and take us home, and we don't have to get there earlier. We don't have to strive to get there. Some mitzvahs say, at least according to some Rishonim. But everyone and anyone on this page here, anyone in this group, our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, and I happen to have a great-great-grandfather who went from the Ukraine, from Galicia, in who knows what years, in the 1800s. And he went to Tveria, lived in Tveria. He's buried in Tveria. I think our ancestors had the opportunity, and it was a feasible thing for them to do. They would have run. They would have gone. They would have given their right hand for it. It was so ingrained into the character of every Yid that that's where he belonged. It was impossible. Today, it's not as impossible as it used to be. So I'm not here to give a petition, to petition you and encourage you to make Aliyah. I did it, so I've been there, done that. Hopefully, I'll do it again. Aliyah, I did that. Aliyah l'tzerech Yerida. Hopefully, my Yerida was a tzerech Aliyah. But I want to just talk about something that, it's a pasuk in Chumash. And one of the oddest, I think, dialogues and lack of clarity, even if you learn the Rishonim. We know that Yisrael came to Har Sinai, and there's a big question. They finished the stay after Har Sinai for a year. They're ready to leave. And Yisrael says, okay. He says, Moshe says to his father, L'chayve, says, we're going to the promised land. I mean, this is it. We went through 210 years of Shibud, and we finally came out. We got Matan Torah. We're going to the greatest, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And he says, come, we'll do good for you too. Won't get into the details, but all the minutiae in the pasuk. But Yisro sort of gives a very flat response. And it's not just flat, it's emphatic. It almost sounds, I haven't found, I've been hunting around for this. We read Parsha Shlach, so I can segue from Tuesday to Wednesday, which is the upcoming Shabbos. Loinale, loyelech, loinale, loyelech. It almost rings the same. It almost sounds similar. Loinale, loyelech. It's almost the reverse of Avram Avinu. If you look at the pasuk here says, loyelech, and Moshe Rabbeinu says to him repeatedly. He says, L'cha itanu v'tavnelach. L'cha itanu v'lavach. Doesn't that sound like Lech L'cha of Avram Avinu to the promised land? And the response echoes again. I'm not sure. This is something that I thought about today. Because really, when I was planning on talking about this, what I wanted to say, the way I see it, because basically he said, I'm not going. And he said, and then Moshe says, no, Tazav. And he says, and he promises him again. And then it doesn't answer. The pasuk leaves it hanging. There was no other episode, to be continued. It was never that episode. The TV show went off the air before they had a chance to make the next episode. Because it doesn't say what happened, which is odd. Did he go back, or did he go with the Jews? Did he go with Moshe it's a machlekes rishonim. It's actually a machlekes rishonim. So what is the pasuk teaching us? A little question. So what are we supposed to walk away from here? Did Yisro do a good thing or did he do a bad thing? And I used to think that Lamaisa, he gave a reason. He says, "Kill artzi v'lamaladati." And if you look at the Midrashim, so Rashi says, "El artzi," he had family. He has his whole family. You expect me to leave my family? And he says, "El maladati." El artzi, he says, "My nechosim." Right. The first one's El artzi is my nechosim. El maladati, my birthplace, my family. Even though, again, it's the mirror image of Avram. Avram left his family. It almost echoes that also. Right, the Beis Avicha and all that, and all your success. I mean, wasn't a young man either. And but here it's almost like, no, I can't leave my family. I can't leave my success. So I used to think that this is an important lesson. That it's not simple. People can't lose their identity. I mean, you want to go to Eretz Yisrael, it doesn't mean you have to give up your whole identity. The Medrash actually says that Yisro said to Moshe, he says, look, over here, I have somewhat to accomplish. I can influence them. I was Magayer. I know the truth. I have children, I have family. I want to influence them. I can make an impact. What am I going to do? I'm going to go with you. I have tremendous amount of talent, but I'm just going to be eclipsed by the brightness of your light and Yeshua's light, and I don't have any role. And it seems like, at least in the face of it, it seems like Moshe Rabbeinu was quiet. He didn't push him. He tried, but he didn't push him against the wall. He didn't say, what are you talking about? We're going to the promised land. This is called a Geras. You're Makayer to accept the Ratzon of Hashem, Taryag, but you're not willing to go as Eretz Yisrael. So the question is, maybe he was only temporarily. He was going to come back later. It's also a shame to talk about that. But it's so unclear in the pasuk. It almost sort of, so I used to think that the pasuk says, of course, it would sound like a no-brainer to go ahead. So it's not so pashut. And when you make decisions, you have to weigh them. You have to deliberate. You don't just do a knee-jerk reaction, to go because it's it seems like the glorious thing to do, the right thing to do. There are 1,000 cheshbainis. The avodah of a yid is to calculate and to be deliberate in everything that he does. And it seems like from the face of it, it would seem like Yisro was exonerated. I mean, he didn't go, at least according to other Shainim. And even if he did go, why didn't the pasuk say it? It's almost like that's a secondary issue. Why didn't it say, yes, he listened and he went and he overcame the Nisayan? It's almost like that's not the issue. So it could go two ways. Either it's one extreme, that it comes to teach you that when you give people advice, even though to you thinks this is the most obvious thing in the world to do, it's not so pashut. You have to weigh everyone's circumstance. You can't just leave your family, just pick up and leave your family, leave your business. You have to survive. That doesn't necessarily mean that everyone can do it. It can't be something that's placed on everyone. But on the other hand, it might be just the opposite, or maybe it's both. Maybe there's a double-edged lesson here. Because the truth is, it almost sounds like this was a prelude. It wasn't that much before the Meraglim. I mean, here was Yisro was the hero, he's Megayah, and they're going to the land, and he says, it's not practical. And it almost exactly like the Meraglim. It's not practical. It's not going to work out for us. Might that also be part of it? And maybe that was also a certain seed was planted, whether he came or he didn't come. But the resistance and the questioning and the doubt, maybe he could have made a difference. Again, I don't know. It's open-ended. I haven't found any sources for that. This is just meanderings of a bored rabbi who doesn't have too much interaction with people, so he's left to his own devices. It's dangerous, but this is something that I've been thinking about. I just wanted to throw it out there. And at first, I was before today, I wanted to say, look, we should admire the people that go, but it's not so simple. But maybe it is that simple, and maybe the questioning ourselves is the prelude, the seeds that planted the episode of Meraglim, even though there's no source that Yisro was the prelude to that, or he created some sort of a doubt. Not so clear. But I just want to conclude with two beautiful ideas. A short thought, a short thing I saw from of all people, the Satmar Rebbe. The Satmar Rebbe says, he's also how can he not listen and what just to ignore him? So he alleges that the pasuk when Moshe Rabbeinu turns to Yisro, when he sees Yisro and he says to him, "Al not tazay v'isanu." Al kain yadata, you know what it's all about. Vayisa lanu le'noyim. So Pashas means he says, no, we need you. We need you to be an eye to the people. Look how helpful you are. We can't survive. We can't really survive without you. He says that's not the pshat. Moshe Rabbeinu understood. There are cheshbainis, but he says, Al no tazayv v'isanu. Don't forsake us. Keep your eyes focused on where you're supposed to be. Vayisa lanu le'noyim. Let us be. First of all, think about us. You're a great man. We need your inspiration, even from as far. But you should be for us. We should be the focus of where you are, no matter where you are. You should be focused on Eretz Yisrael, even if you have cheshbainis that might be just. And that's how it learns the pasuk. It's a beautiful pshat, because that's sometimes what we lack. Whether we're capable of picking up, ourselves by the bootstraps and just selling our homes and moving to Israel, not knowing that we have the means to survive there and parnasa and all that. But at the very least, we've got to keep that as our focus and yearn. V'sechazenu is not just a dream that one day it'll happen. Okay, we'll go along. It's something we have to live with every moment. The realization we don't belong here. We may have cheshbainis why we have to be here, elartzi, v'mladati, but we don't belong here. Keep your focus on Eretz Yisrael. So I saw someone quoted. It says in 1954, the Yamshin of a Rebbe, he's I think the father-in-law of the one today, moved from Brooklyn to Yerushalayim. Later, he told his family, "Now that I live in Yerushalayim, the only thing I miss is the yearning to go to Eretz Yisrael." When he lived in Galus, he lived with a consciousness, an awareness, a longing, and that kept him buoyant. It kept him focused. It kept him, it kept him, and it impacted everything that he did, because everything he did and prevented him from becoming influenced by the Galus and the Tumas Eretz Amim that he was in. But once you're in Eretz Yisrael, you sometimes take it for granted. So we have something that maybe those who make Aliyah don't have. And it doesn't mean that it's better or worse, but it means that we have to remember, we should keep our focus there. And tomorrow I'm going to talk about, maybe we have to go there just simply to escape. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. But at the very least, whether Yisro was an example of deliberateness that was justified and respected, and a lesson for us to not make impulsive decisions, or perhaps his deliberateness was a precursor to the weakness of the Meraglim, Pesach Nicht. Something for all of us to think. Yishma Chacham V'Yasoid. Curious to hear what everyone has to say. But either way, we have to remember Yisrael Olenayim. Let's yearn. Let's not ever forget where we belong. And hopefully soon, we'll be able to be there, not because we want to escape the riots, but because even without the riots, we want to be someplace else. We need to be someplace else. We need to be home. Okay. Thank you, folks. This week is a tough week for me. That's what's on my mind. I told you, I'm not sure if I mentioned it. This is the week that I returned. Unfortunately, my Yerida, the beginning of my Yerida, I came Parsha Shlach, of all Parshas, sandwiched between Baloischa and Shlach, and I came the week of Parsha, the first Shabbos we laid back with Shlach. Unbelievable. So it's really a little torturous for me. But I hope, and maybe, is anyone, all those who remember, I had a personal story about the girl Lagra. Anyone heard that story here? Anyone know the story about the girl Lagra? A little bit, okay. So maybe tomorrow I'll share with you. I had a personal story. It's a really very touching. I hope I can get through it without crying. But good. It's obviously, it's something. I'll share it with you tomorrow, Mitzvah. Okay, guys. And the Voxes are here tonight. The Voxes. Keep Voxing. Okay. See everybody. I got to go down Mincha Meyer. Thank you for listening. All the best.